Does your laptop screen look like this with the stripes down the side and a part of loss of your video of your screen on your laptop? Well, there's no need to deal with this loss of video on your screen any longer. You can replace the screen on your laptop very easily, and I'm going to show you how. Okay, I'm going to proceed with replacing the screen here. First thing I'm going to do is shut the computer down. Okay, the computer's shut down. The next thing you need to do is to remove the battery. I have a high capacity battery, so it's a large battery, but you just need to pull it out. Okay, the next thing that you have to do is remove the screws that are right down in here. I don't know if you can see them or not, but they're right down in this little corner right here. There's a little cover that goes on them that can be removed with an X-Acto knife. It's just all it is just a little piece of plastic tape that's got some stickum on it, and you need to remove it. Anyway, what I did is I used an X-Acto knife and just scraped it, and it pulled it off, and it's the little sticker is sitting right here now. So anyway, the screws they're going there. So this is the size of a screwdriver that you need to remove the screws. If you notice, it's a flathead screw driver and not a Phillips. Even though the screws in the laptop are a Phillips, I don't recommend using a Phillips, because it's not you can't get a straight shot at the screw because of the close tolerance in between the hinge assembly here. So, but with a flat blade, you can fit, as long as the blade fits in the screw crosswise, you can pull the screw out. And so these have already been removed, but anyway, you can get in here and turn that and remove those screws. There's one on this side, and there's another one on this side. I just wanted to show you what these little covers look like that cover the screws that are down behind the edge of the bezel that are hard to get to on the sides. The way you get those out of there is with an X-Acto knife, and you kind of have to pop them off, and if you notice, they just pop right off. And you can really kind of see that there's a relief in the plastic. Let me get rid of this screw here so you can see it. You can see that there's an edge there where the little plastic fitting fits down inside the plastic, so that you kind of have to dig that little plastic cover out of there to expose the screws. I kind of also wanted to show you these screws and the type of screwdriver that you need. If you use a Phillips screwdriver, you're going to have to get that screwdriver lined up perfectly to get to the screw, and it's not going to engage the screw well enough to get it out. But if you use just a flat blade screw, you can angle it and still be able to get this screwdriver to engage the screw and get it out. And so I highly recommend just using a plain screwdriver, a jeweler screwdriver, to get the screw out. So the only thing that's the next step there then is to remove the bezel off of the laptop, and that's done very simply. What I recommend you do is get your little fingernails up underneath the edge of the plastic, the bezel on the camera, on the display, and just pull on it, and then get your finger between there and just gently pull it. And then it just comes off. And since this was taken off previously, you also have to pull on the edge along the bottom as well. So anyway, that's the way the bezel comes off. You can see that it's just a plastic bezel. You want to be careful not to break this because they're kind of expensive to replace. The next thing that you do is there's two screws in this corner and this corner of the laptop screen, and you pull those out. And I recommend using a small jeweler's Phillips screwdriver for that. Anyway, the other thing that I do is I set the screws aside in a pattern on the table where you can see where you took the screw out of, so that you can put them back very easily, you know where they go back. So now if you notice, the screen will separate at the top from the mounting plate on the back side. Now you'll notice that it doesn't want to swivel on the bottom here. It's because it's screwed down. But you don't need to take those screws out of the bezel assembly, because what you're going to be doing, there's four screws that hold the LCD panel in place. There's one here, and there's one here, one here, and one here. So I'm not going to take those out at this point, because I'm waiting for my panel to arrive. I should receive it this afternoon, and I'll continue this video then. Okay, well, I'm back, and the laptopscreens.com replacement LCD display came today. This afternoon I ordered it second day air, and it came the second day, which is hardly ever the case, but in this case they delivered it on time, and I now have my replacement LCD screen. I'm going to put the camera on the tripod so that you can watch the replacement. Okay, I guess the first order of business is to make sure that what I ordered is what I got. It came in a really nice hardboard container that protects it from damage during shipping, which is a good thing. It looks to be the same as what's in the laptop. I need to pull the screen out and verify. The number on it is a LP173WD1, and it's made by LG. Anyway, there's my new replacement screen for my laptop. It appears to be the same size. So let's set it aside and pull the full screen out. So I guess the next order of business is to pull the screws out and grab my screwdrivers here. So I need to pull the battery out because I've been operating it since this morning. You want to open the laptop up as far as you can get when you go to take the screws out on the corners here and pull the bezel off. Now I've already shown you how to pull that bezel off. So now let's pull these screws out. It's really easy to lose these tiny screws, so what I've done is I have a neodymium magnet here, and I keep it a lot far away from the laptop, but I use that to hold the screws. That way the screws don't get lost. Alright, so next order of business is to now there's a video camera up here you have to be kind of careful of. You don't want to pull the cabling off of the camera. You want to leave it on the laptop, so when you pull this screen forward you kind of want to put your finger behind it and kind of gently pull this cable off the back of the display. And like I said earlier, there's four screws, one here, one here, one here, and one here. So I'm gonna take the bottom screws out from the bottom first because it'll be easier to deal with that way. I don't want the display falling, and the screw is falling down behind this display panel, so I'm going to pick it up with the magnetic. There it is. I kind of magnetized the screwdriver so that it would pick it up. Alright, now I'm going to do this other one. To the bottom first. Just lean this display forward. You can catch that screw with your finger when you go to pull it out. It's much easier than dropping it behind the display. Okay, the only thing that's left to do here is to get these two top screws. I'm going to do this one first, and then the one on the other side. Captured the screw with my finger. Well, it came out. Let's turn it around. And if you notice, I've opened this as far as it'll open, and that's so that the display panel rests backwards and doesn't fall forward and further damage anything. I've captured the screw here in my fingers. So now the display is completely free to be pulled out. But you have to be kind of careful doing this. There's cables on the back side of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to rest my battery right here, and that'll be kind of let the panel rest against it when I pull this forward. I'm going to turn this light out so there's no glare. I think that'll be a better image for you. Okay, so I'm going to lift this forward. In fact, I'm going to pull this camera off of the stand here so that you can see what I'm looking at here. See, this is where the video cable right here comes off the video camera and comes off, and there's a little stickum right here, and that's what I was pulled loose off the back of the panel initially. Okay, so if you notice, it's pulling on this cable. Okay, so here, this is what the computer looks like behind the LCD panel. What you want to be very, very careful of is this cable going to the video camera, which also goes through the connection to the back of the display panel. I don't know if you can see it or not, but right here is an edge. Now let me change the focus here. Okay, so that's a little bit better focus. Peeling up the corner of that panel. Okay, so I don't know if you can see the outline of it, but there's a piece of tape right here that holds the connector in the back of the display panel. What we want to do is very carefully peel that up. Pull with that X-Acto knife. Try not to cover the whole back side of that with your fingers, because the grease from your fingers will contaminate the glue that's on that tape and make it so it doesn't stick, and hold the connector in. There it is, and it disconnected the connector as well. So I'm going to leave that right there. And we're going to move this old panel out and put the new one in. I'm using this carton that came with the new panel to support it. So there's the new panel right there. Okay, so what I've done is I've taken this container, this pouch that the new display came in, and I'm going to lay it right on top of the keyboard. This is the new panel. I'm going to just lay him right here, flat right here. I'm going to very carefully connect this connector. Okay, so I've got my glasses on. This connector is very delicate and can be damaged very easily, so you have to be kind of careful. Plugging it back in. There it is. And then you just seal it back down. Okay, so the panel is connected. Now what we need to do is get the screws back in the panel. So I'm going to set the screen up. One of the things you have to do at the bottom of the screen here is lift it up and make sure that this cable sits back down in the little groove at the bottom. And I'll show you that with the camera here in a minute. Okay, so there it is, back in place, but I need to secure it at the bottom so it doesn't fall out at the bottom. So I'm going to get some tape to do that. Okay, I've got some masking tape here. You have to be very careful using this masking tape because you don't want to stick it to the front of the new screen. What you really want to do is just keep it from the panel from moving around while you're trying to put the screws in it. But there's a little metal edge on the bottom of the screen, so that's what I'm going to do. Is I'm going to stick it to the metal part of the screen and not the surface of the screen. Then I'm going to lift it up and see that the screw holes are lined up on the edge. And then I'm going to stick it down. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Just look where the screw holes line up on the edge right here before you try to stick this down to support the panel. It's kind of difficult. There you go. Alright, so now I've got this lined up where I can put the screws in it. Okay, anyway, this is what I do is I put the tip of the Phillips screwdriver in the head of the screw and then kind of hold it with my finger nail. And I grab the panel in this support and look at the edge of the panel and just put the screw in. Be careful not to overstress the panel when you put these screws in, but make sure you snug them up or they'll come back out. Okay, that one's done. I'm going to turn this around and do the other side. I think you can see that. Again, I'm going to put the Phillips in the end of the screw and hold it with your fingernail. Grab the panel and the edge line up the hole in the panel and the support. And there it is. So the top two screws are in. The bottom screws are a little more difficult. It's because this panel tends to want to not expose those screws. I'm going to put something behind this kind of to pull this apart here so I can expose the screw. So I have another screwdriver here, and I'm just going to wedge it behind the panel a little bit right here. That'll help expose that screw hole at the bottom. Again, I'm going to use my fingernail and get the tip of the screw in the hole and push the panel back just a little bit and support the panel on the far side with your hand and tighten them up. Okay, pull the wedge out and let's do the other side. And you can see the screw holes right here, and you may have to push that panel back just a little bit to line up the screw. Sorry, I bumped the camera. Again, use your finger and hold the screw until you get the tip of the screw in the hole. Oh, and I just dropped it. It's very difficult to hang on to these little tiny screws. I'm going to magnetize this screwdriver a little bit by just running it over a magnet. And now the screwdriver becomes magnetized and it'll hold the screw itself. And I can pinch the panel a little bit, get the screw in the hole. Again, support the panel on the far side and get enough force to tighten the screws. Pull your wedge out. Now what's left to do is put the screws in the top corners. I'm using a medium-size Phillips jeweler screwdriver for this operation. I think I'm going to again magnetize the screwdriver to hold the screw. Okay, the only thing that's left to do is put the bezel on. But now the screen is securely fastened to the computer, I can pull this tape off. And the other thing that's quite important is right here there's a place for the cable to lay down in. You need to make sure that the cable is laying down in that channel. I'm going to move the camera off the stand and show you. The cable rests in a groove right here. And make sure that that cable is down in that groove before you try to put the bezel on, or it'll cause you some grief. Okay, the only thing left to do here, after we get the 4 screws in, the 4 screws in the panel itself on each side, and the 2 up above, is to check your cabling down below here. Make sure it's in its little groove. Make sure that the camera is positioned okay, and power it up and check it out. That's a good sign. We have the HP logo, starting Windows, well, it appears that it's working. We have a full screen. Awesome. And let's just shut it down here. Now that it's tested, the only thing that's left to do is put the bezel back on. So you need to take this protective cover off of it, and what you do is you take your X-Acto knife and very carefully cut down the edge of here to release the panel. There, brand new screen. Awesome. The bezel is the only thing that's left to put on now, and it's very easy to go on. You just drop it into place and squeeze it along the top, along the edges, along the bottom. And it's almost all back together. Again, highly recommend for putting these screws in the corners here and here is to use a flat blade screwdriver. These are kind of hard to get in. I'll do my best to show you how to use the magnet trick again to get it started. See that screw? We'll pick it right up here. And this is much easier to deal with. Yeah, I think that one's in. idea is to get the tip of the screw down in there where it needs to go. The further you tip the panel back, the easier it is to get to. Alright, those screws are in. Support it from the back, twist them in tight, then we'll come out again. Now the thing that's left to do is to put these little covers back on the screws. There's a little dot cover that goes on it. Just use it on the tip of the X-Acto knife. I'm just going to position it. And it fell off. Use the back edge of the X-Acto knife and just kind of press it into place. If you find that it doesn't stick, which it isn't, it may not be necessary to put it even back on. Yeah, I'm not gonna put it back on. Well, you can see now that the laptop is all put back together. I decided not to put the little plastic screw covers back on the screws in the corners here and here. They're really no consequence. So I guess the last thing remaining to do is boot up the computer and make sure everything works fine. So booting up. Display's coming on. Windows is starting. Looks like things are good. Takes a minute for Windows to boot up, but there it is. I have a full screen now. Just remember that this screen came from laptopscreens.com.